Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Good afternoon to those of you that didn't see me this morning and said good morning when it was your afternoon or wherever you might be. Going to be a great show, although I have so much material to cover and there's no way I'm going to get to it because I got to keep the show high and tight tonight because Summer and I are flying to D.C. tonight on a red eye and I have yet to pack. So I'm going to try and just get right to it right out of the gate. Make some Sparksist remarks. Yes, we are definitely the meeting of the international conglomeration of Sparksists for the gathering of our culmination of the Sparksist Manifesto. Gathers party headquarters right now. There you go. Smash the like. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Support the show in any way you can, either by super chatting or by, if you're on Facebook, you can use stars. If you're not, of course, a lunatic troll, in which case the only way you can really help us is type a bunch of stuff in the chat room, because that will alert Facebook that we're an engaging show, and then they'll spread us out even further. Just saying. Just no, racial epithets or offensive language and that kind of stuff. Anything else, you can just go ahead and be your dumb self. And then, of course, if you're on Twitch, twitch.tv/HouseBarks, don't forget to subscribe. If you use Amazon Prime, it won't cost you a dime. There, I did it all right out of the gate. Look at this. Yeah, trolls, go ahead and hit the thumbs down. Let us know you're here. Let us know that you've already made up your mind about what you're going to see before you've even seen it. I think that's nothing speaks more positively of your political side of the aisle than deciding you're going to hate what I'm going to say before I've even said it. You started littering all over YouTube today. I do a morning show 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then I do the afternoon show every day, and here we are. So no show tomorrow, although Friday this week, because we'll be in DC and we're kind of traveling about and looking at stuff, I may not do a morning show, or I may just live stream from a location for a short while, like if we go to one of the museums or something like that. We shall see. A lot happened this morning. We discussed what water is and whether we even know. We discussed a little bit of the China Evergrande situation, which has, in terms of that, over the next 3 days, the plot continues to thicken. And I posted an article earlier today about the American, U.S., Australia gathering. I think it was in the Washington Post, I want to say. I'll see if I can grab the article real quick. That there is a singular move that the Biden administration has done. Here it is. This is from the Washington Post global opinions page from Robert Kaplan. If you take a look at this opinion, the Biden administration just stalled China's advance in the Indo-Pacific. Culture and tradition matter. The Anglosphere is a real grouping that compromises elements of trust going back decades and centuries. It's a cool article. There are a few things more hidden and precious in the U.S. defense arsenal than the production process for nuclear submarines. Just in case you're wondering, these are nuclear-powered submarines. These are not submarines with nukes on them. And the U.S. has shared that technology with only the U.K. Yeah, Britain in 1958. We shared that technology with them. And then Australia is only the second country we have shared this with. Now, the reason why these are special is because this technology causes these submarines to run completely silent for all practical purposes. And China's, the highest level Chinese, their newest class, the Shenzhen, I think it's called. I'm screwing the name because it's been weeks since I've even uttered it or talked about it. But in personal conversations, this isn't even stuff I've said on the show. But the Chinese, the top of the line Chinese sub that they have right now is as noisy as a Russian conventional powered sub from the mid 80s, which is very noisy. And we know where all their subs are all the time, just from sonar. it's pretty pitiful, considering how advanced their technology was supposed to be in the story everybody was telling about, Chinese military expansion, what they're doing, and yada yada. So the U.S. and Australia and Great Britain have formed this united front against China using nuclear-powered submarines. So basically, they can just park them nearby, especially around Taiwan, in case the Chinese decide to attack Taiwan. Now, the problem China has with attacking Taiwan, anything short of total human attrition, meaning sending more people to attack Taiwan as far as troops and whatnot than there is population in Taiwan. Anything short of that isn't going to work. It just won't work. And they know it because their military, especially when it comes to, war on the seas, is very badly trained, poorly equipped. Everything looks really modern, but it runs like crap. And they know this, and the U.S. knows this, and Russia knows this. China can't even build jet engines. They buy them from Russia. It's for their military anyways. And it's just not good for them right now. And there's so much that we've been told over the especially the last 10 years about the rise of China, and that it's just inevitable, and there's no way to counter it, and it's extraordinary, and there's no way, and it's just a matter of time. It's 2 decades, and China's going to run the world. And I like China a lot. I like the Chinese people. I'm not a fan of the government, but I love the Chinese people. I love Chinese culture, and I'm here to tell you that's not anywhere close to true. As I spent time over there doing the show that I was filming, and I've mentioned this a couple times, especially lately, but I was increasingly demoralized isn't the word, but it was depressing to see how much of it was just puffery. It was just fake. We'll just build another bridge island to Taiwan. No. So it's nowhere near the threat that everybody talks about it being on so many fronts. And it's getting worse all the time. And there's some element of investor collapse in China, but nothing over the next 5 years is going to change any of that. This is a problem of their own making. So anyways, pretty fascinating. I posted, I posted this article on my Twitter feed if anybody wants to check it out. It's pretty fascinating overall. And even the Chinese expansion into their own country and the Uyghur concentration camps and all that kind of stuff is a factor of a specific group of Chinese people within China being the real Chinese people, and therefore trying to take over the Han, specifically trying to move into Tibet and trying to move into southern China. And yeah. But they made the virus, Al. Yeah, they totally did. That story about them creating a bioweapon out of it. Again, the question becomes: is it just a screw up, or did they do it on purpose? After spending a bunch of time there and knowing what their security measures are like and their circumstance, I'm gonna go with big mistake. Graft, low-level corruption causing this, because it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Like, we have lobbyists and politicians that are in certain lobbyist pockets and blah, blah, and we tell ourselves our entire system is rife with corruption. It's not even close. People, it is not even close. But, you don't have to listen to me. You can listen to Glenn Beck on The West is in Serious Trouble. He was on a podcast called Free the People. I can't do all of this, but I want to show you a little bit of this just because I don't know. Maybe Glenn Beck and this dude are just battling to be the most ridiculously dressed hipsters, but holy smokes. Kibby on Liberty? Kibby on Liberty? Kibbe? Kibby. I'm going to go with Kibby on Liberty. Kibber to Liberty. Dippity.
I'm a little freaked out by my country right now.
I'm sorry, but cutting right to this dude is comedy.
I know how you feel, particularly the last month, and every month we say that, right? This month was insane, and I was thinking about
this is premiered September 15th. This month was insane.
Terry told me just a couple days ago, you need to stop losing your temper, and I hadn't even noticed it. And I'm not someone that easily loses my temper, but
we're all very afraid.
Last year and a half has been pretty tough on me because I've personalized all of this stuff that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much to me, like you and I have.
Yeah, I'm not losing my temper to my loved ones and my relatives because of me. I'm losing my temper on behalf of America. That's why I'm screaming obscenities at my wife and friends. I don't even know who this asshole is. I know already. I'm like, it's suspect.
Word. We have some privilege in these lockdowns because we're able to keep working.
Yeah.
And, we're
I'm sorry. Were they playing Cowboys and Indians right before they sat down? Is it cowboy dress up?
Part of the laptop class. So personally, this has been a pretty productive year, but I just hate what our government is doing to destroy people's lives.
Yeah, that's what's happening. Our government is doing things to destroy people's lives. Says guy in front of fake mantelpiece. That's a set. It's a picture of Abraham Lincoln going, I wonder why this asshole has more ridiculous facial hair than I do.
Yeah,
think hard about this. Say something about how the poor downtrodden people while you're doing your show from like space station Glenn Beck in your cowboy pants.
I think it's beyond reason now. I was just talking to somebody who said, they said, do people believe? And I said, the biggest problem in stopping the Holocaust was the Germans.
Yeah, that's where we are. We're in the Holocaust right now. That's a great analogy. We just got out of Afghanistan. We're trying to clamp down on the coronavirus, which is killing mostly people who did not vote for the current president, and he's still trying to save their lives, mainly from them being stupid, willfully ignorant. I mean, Breitbart is doing articles about maybe they're tricking us into not taking the vaccine to own the libs, and this is all part of a plot. Good Lord, the Holocaust. Get fucked.
That really, truly bought into the propaganda. And they bought in so deeply, and that was such a bad thing.
Well, I'm glad we can agree on that. Yes, kudos to Glenn Beck. I think everybody, big hand for Glenn Beck for recognizing that the Holocaust was such a bad thing.
Once they bought into it, they were destined to continue to buy into it, no matter how bad it was, because...
I see. Sort of like, I don't know, let me follow your analogy here. Let's say there was a group of people who, out of fealty to their political leader, decided that wearing masks and getting vaccinated, let's just say, I'm just pulling this out of my hat, was a political stance, of the other side, and therefore they weren't going to do it to show that they not only weren't siding with their opposition, but also to show their fealty to their dear leader. And then once they'd done it, even though a variant came through and was killing their own kind, and all the people who'd taken the vaccine were surviving at a much higher rate, like off the charts, I mean, literally to the point of statistical noise, and yet they were so dug in, they couldn't start taking the vaccine because that would mean that the terrorists win. Something like that.
And they couldn't admit the lie because then everything would come undone.
Yeah.
Yes. And ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Glenn Beck and his entire career. Also, there's nothing on that reel. I don't know what that old microphone is. Those jars contain nothing. These books have never been read. those are flowers from World Market. This is one of the goofiest sets I've ever seen that wasn't on the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And for those of us who are awake, and
the term is woke. Glenn just admitted he's woke, by the way. You're woke. No, the mics aren't.
I talked to Peter Boghossian today. I mean, he's on the left. He's wide awake, too. For those of us who are
woke, the term is woke.
Awake and see what is happening.
We are the people who are awoke.
The door is closing on your ability to say, okay, wait a minute, what's happening?
Yes, that's my big fear, is that your ability to say, okay, wait, what's happening is totally going to be taken away. Okay, wait, what's happening? Yes, now that after the president has said, please get a vaccine multiple times because the vaccine is wiping people out. Wait, hold on, what's happening?
And it's a little terrifying because the excuse that, oh, they just have a different opinion, or no, this is happening, or no, they're just trying to save this, and
oh my God, gibberish, fucking gibberish.
Taking that out of context, you can see the deliberate destruction of freedom, of values, of people.
Yes, they're just destruction of people. They're just blowing them up.
And of the country.
Yeah.
Every institution, everything's being destroyed. And by everything, he means all the shit that Trump tried to make in his own image that failed on its own before anybody even had a chance to fuck it up. Destroyed. And it's throughout the West. We're in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Of course. What the hell?
Feels like they found our Achilles heel. They being...
Yeah, yes, we found your Achilles heel. If we suggest getting vaccinated against a disease that might kill you, you won't. And therefore, your Achilles heel is your adult fucking toddlers. That's your Achilles heel.
This machine, they've tapped into our fear, and it's not just about the virus. I mean, it could be about...
Yeah, absolutely not. It's your fear of everything. It's your fear of sideburns. It's a fear of not looking like a gunslinger with consumption.
I don't think there's fear on the virus. It's funny. I just met somebody who was a big writer for comedy and he's on the left.
Yeah.
He lives in California.
Yeah, he's a California left writer guy. I just met him.
Yeah, he had 2 masks on. And he shook my hand with the elbow.
Yeah.
And he said, sorry, I'm from California. And I'm like, no, I get it. Whatever. But
yeah, that's how it went. Sorry, I'm from California. Yeah, that's exactly what was said. Yeah. Can we drag this nothing conversation out longer?
Depending on where you're living, that's manufactured fear. That's unreasonable fear.
Yeah.
If I were writing a horror movie or a end of the world dystopian movie, the villain
you wouldn't be dressed for it. I'm just saying, unless it was a cowboys versus aliens dinner theater.
Not be COVID-19. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's like,
yeah.
Really? What a wussy villain that is. And yet that's the way people are treating this. Like this is Ebola. It's not.
Yeah.
Right. Ebola is actually harder to spread, dumb fuck. Yeah. Ebola, you actually have to be expressing the virus. You spit blood on people. They have to come in contact with your body fluids to actually get it. It's actually way harder to spread than COVID. The reason you wouldn't make this the contagion in your disease end of the world movie is because you're dumb. Because you're Cowboy Glenn.
Well, they've whatever that is. Like I now agree with Michael Malice that we should call it the corporate press.
I agree.
And when I use the C word, I'm actually suggesting crony capitalism press. Unfortunately, that's what it means for people. And this collusion.
It's always hard when you're on the right and you have to attack corporations and you got to come up with a new way to do it.
Between big media and government in this particular context, ginning up this.
Yeah, beyond that, big media, big corporations. I mean,
gee, it's almost like you don't want to reward success, Glenn.
Everything is being done. So I can't go to my local Ace True Value hardware store, but somehow or another it's safe to be in Home Depot.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's
Since when? You can't go to Ace? What are you talking about? You mean smaller spaces were closed for a little while? We're going brand for brand now. It was that Home Depot is really, they're a big corporation, and poor little Ace Hardware.
absolutely ridiculous. And it is this.
Yes, it's a ridiculous assertion. We don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
This corporate giveaway. And whether you look at it as, well, why would they do that? Well, because politicians don't like to fundraise. And it's a lot easier to fundraise, with 500 companies than it is with 13 million companies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, especially Democrats. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to put out all the mom and pop Ace Hardware stores out of business using COVID fear. The fuck are you talking about? Honestly, I don't know. I thought this conversation was going to go, the West is in serious trouble is the name of this. And what he's gotten to so far is that apparently people would rather go for the Home Depot dollar than the Ace Hardware dollar. Now, give me 1 second, if I may. I hate doing this. I hate diving straight in to the research in here. Let's see. Home Depot. Let's see. Whoops. I'll do it on here. Home Depot GOP donations. Whoops. Home Depot. Oop. There we go. No, Home Depot facing my. Yeah, there you go. You mean like this stuff? You mean like what party would rather get all that money from Home Depot and Home Depot stays open? By the way, this is, I think, in reference to stuff that happened last year. But you can't go to Ace. I don't know how Ace's president donated to Trump. But so this is his case, that they're trying to strangle Ace Hardware, but everybody can go to Home Depot because politicians would rather go to a few hands for, fundraise from companies like Home Depot than a bunch of Ace Hardware franchise owners or some shit. And this is why the West is in trouble.
And, no matter the motivation, it's happening. And I've always mocked the Blade Runner of, he works for the corporation. Oh, yeah. Stop it.
Yeah.
We were wrong. We were dead wrong. And any conservative libertarian that says, well, it's their right as a private corporation. No. It's in collusion now.
Yeah.
They're not a private corporation. It is a public-private partnership.
What do you mean? The pharmaceutical companies that Trump got on board with Operation Fart Steed? Hold on.
Captain's log.
Or that kind of public-private partnership?
And that is not freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, I get very frustrated with fellow libertarians that sort of fall into that. Well, they're a private organization; they can do whatever they want. I mean,
Yeah, but that's because they're real libertarians and you're a fake one or whatever. P.S. Libertarians are idiots, and there is no libertarian political philosophy that functions in governance at all because you can't be. It's basically corporate anarchy. So tough shit. I don't know.
first of all, corporations are a government-created fiction, right? There's very legal.
Yeah, legal. Yeah, and while we're at it, audit the Fed. Zeitgeist. How did these guys just completely flip?
Protections.
By the way, in all seriousness, like whether governments have overreach and whether fascism involves the government and corporations working to put down workers worldwide, when those things actually happen, those can be serious things and need to be dealt with serious legislation and democratic policies. What these assholes are discussing is just fucking nonsense. I will not take it seriously.
That come from incorporation, but we of all people understand public choice theory and the idea that corporations have always used government.
Yes, totally.
To screw over their enemies, and in this case, it is a real collusion because it's not unclear. It's not clear to me. I see that
it's not unclear or clear. It's
like, say you're a pharmaceutical company. I understand the attraction of getting the government to mandate that everybody consume your product.
Sure,
that's a pretty cool business model if you can have it, but
especially if. And by the way, their government is not mandating that you take that product. It's mandating you take that product or you get tested every week. But please, tyranny, something, corporations, see whatever.
It also seems to flow the other way, where it's kind of political capture with one party government in Washington, D.C.
You clearly saw that with, who was it, Pfizer, that the Sunday after the election came out and said, "Oh, by the way, we just discovered it was in my back pocket."
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that's a great description, Glenn. That's exactly how it went. Wasn't months of them, and they weren't directly involved with the development part of Operation Fart Steed, for the record.
Captain's log.
They were actually, for those of you that don't know, the Pfizer agreed to sell a certain amount and took money ahead of time, but had no input from the task force on their development of how they were going to go about making the vaccine. Johnson & Johnson and Moderna did, and they came even later. Pfizer was first. The ones that had the most interaction with Trump's task force came after Pfizer. Just so you know. So all the companies that were directly in contact with Trump's task force, and Operation Fart Steed, they discovered they finished their trials and got through the ability to present all their findings to the FDA so they could get emergency use declaration after Pfizer did. Pfizer was faster than anyone.
No word on that. And then as soon as Biden is elected, they announce the discovery of a lifetime.
Yeah.
It's
No, they had announced the discovery of it back in August, but it still took time. And even speeding it up, that was the fastest they could get it done. And even with that, it happened so fast that Trump's own followers won't take it, including this asshole and the guy he's talking to.
Sickening. It's sickening because they are part of whatever it is and whatever their motivation. And I think there's a ton of motivation going on, but you are seeing the result of
you're seeing the result of two guys using more words to say less than anyone I have ever seen.
Now in power that believe the American experiment is over and the American power around the globe is over.
Yeah. What are you, French now?
And they're managing the decline. That's the best. They're managing the decline.
Yeah.
Is that what they're doing? They're managing the decline. Are they? Is that what they're doing, Glenn? They're just managing the decline. Because, by the way, could Trump have done this technically at any time during his presidency? Shit, yeah, he could have. Why didn't he? I guess this is part of them managing our decline, I guess. So dumb.
They're getting theirs.
Well, it is. I mean, it seems like we've reached that tipping point. I'm always the optimist, and I'm going to explain to you why at some point.
Good, I'd like to hear it.
You and I have been part of at least several counter-revolutions.
Yeah, we were counter-revolutionaries, and then we set up what we're doing. Then we were like, we don't like this anymore, so we were revolutionaries against our own counter-revolution, and then we counter-revolutioned against that counter-revolution. So basically, we're like human game. We're like two kids playing Pong with politics.
Go all the way back to 1994. I was a young staffer working on Capitol Hill, and in 1993, the permanent.
How's your suit against Dennis Hastert going?
Wisdom. Everybody believed this. Nobody doubted it. Was that the Democrats would be in charge forever. And then 90.
What? I'm sorry. Right after Bill Clinton got in office, a year in, the Democrats will be in charge forever. Forever. That's what everyone thought. So you basically only hang around with panic-stricken losers who navel gaze every time something doesn't go their way. All right, that explains a lot.
1994 came. The counter-revolution, the pendulum swing, the rejection of all.
Yeah, a year and a half later. Oh my God, is that John Wall?
Those 40 years of corruption that had become intolerable to all sorts of people. And of course...
Glenn, don't wipe your nose on the chair. That's just wrong.
In 2000, and I'd say 2008. A lot of people say 2009 with the Tea Party.
Started in 8.
It started with the Wall Street bailout and the rejection of that.
I was say, what was it, 700 and some $billion, which seems like a pittance today, but it started there.
No, it does not.
And I think the counter-revolution is coming, and the flashpoint probably is COVID socialism. It's a
COVID socialism. Please do explain COVID socialism. That's where, by the way, everyone gets COVID that they need, not that they want. That everyone gets COVID according to their needs. That would be COVID Marxism. They're probably the same.
Civil liberties more, maybe perhaps, than the inability of people to actually legally go to their own jobs. But it's a cumulative effect of all this stuff. And it's not just conservatives at all.
No, it's not.
The vax mandate is not going to hit conservatives. It's going to hit deep into the blue collar, working class base.
No, it isn't. It's going to hit the blue collar working class base that voted for Trump, that is right wing or that is Republican, and that that Biden doesn't appeal to, which is an incredible shrinking group
that the Democratic Party thinks it owns, and civil libertarians.
The Democrats think they own the white working class, blue collar working class. Is that's supposedly what we think?
African Americans.
Yeah.
African Americans, the number one group not getting it. It's not Trump voters. It's African Americans.
No. By percentage in certain neighborhoods, but by volume, it's overwhelmingly Trump voters. And even amongst the areas where black people aren't getting it, there's a more conservative bent. I mean, these are either people who voted Trump or didn't vote at all, or voted Democratic, but they're panicked by this kind of nonsense.
They might have some reasonable fears.
They might have some fears of like the Indians. Hey, we're going to go collect the guns from the Native Americans. Probably not. They're probably going to resist that.
Yeah,
they have some reason to.
I'm sorry. Are you out of Holocaust analogies? So now you're going to that we took the Second Amendment away from Native Americans?
So I think you have this very broad-based, and this is where the Tea Party was in 2008, 2009. It was a very...
It's the same assholes, same people. Contract for America, or, or as we like to say back in the day, the Contract on America, Newt Gingrich Revolution, and the Tea Party, and the Trumpers, same people. Same people.
Based bottom-up grassroots rejection of authoritarianism. And this could...
of authoritarianism, what are you talking about? Trump was an authoritarian. He denied states PPE just on how he felt the governors were treating him, so that people in those states wouldn't get protective equipment or ventilators based on the fact that he felt personally slighted. What are you talking about? What is that? Do they just blow past that? Is that how they survive? Is that how they keep from getting a brain cramp that makes them drop like scanners?
The catalyst for that. I'm hopeful that it is. It kind of has to be. We need pushback, and I see it happening in France, and I see it happening in Australia.
Well, they were very bright with January 6th, and you and I have known this forever.
Right.
The minute anyone on the right strikes out, it's going to be a bloodbath because
a bloodbath. One woman was shot because she was the first person through the glass, and they were still evacuating members of Congress in a large group of people saying, "Hang Mike Pence." Bloodbath. Asshole, they're going to jail for violently attacking police officers. They've all got court-appointed lawyers if they want them. They get free legal services. Bloodbath. Eat it.
It's what the left wants and needs.
Yeah.
That's what happens. All we have to do is, all we do all day is sit back and wait for you guys to snap. It's like a domestic violence gaslighting thing. We just drive you to strike us and then call the police. What?
And but to see what they've done with January 6th, and it's going to be a very, very tough needle to thread, because they're teaching us lessons just like we taught them. We're now almost 2 years from the 15 days to flatten the curve. Mm-hmm. We taught them a very important lesson. You can do this, and we'll be okay with it.
I see. So if Trump taught us how to do the bare minimum to push back against this thing after ignoring it for months, when it obviously 2 months would have had a much bigger effect on it, that if somebody else was running things, they would have done a much tighter version of things early on, nipped it in the bud, and set up protections during the time when it was the worst, so that when we didn't have a vaccine, the death rate would have been way lower. As bad as it is now, it didn't have to be this bad. We could, if we'd have focused, especially their areas they're talking about that their friends live in, had been more welcoming to lockdowns or more welcoming to masking up and stuff. The people who died before we had the vaccines did not have to die. Half of those people could have been saved. Clearly. But, they taught us how the 15 days to stop the spread or whatever. That was going to be plenty. And then they taught us how to, then we went, 15 days. Let's make it 15 months. Like that was our dream gig. Because we were all just sitting there going, you just wait. Trump will release a worldwide pandemic onto America, killing over 500,000 people, and that'll show him. Good Lord.
They're also teaching us very careful lessons. And that lesson of January 6th...
Well, they're not fashion lessons, I will say that.
Probably, I don't even know, 20 bad guys that were out of control, and the rest of them...
20? Did you see the heave-ho crowd dumped...
We're kind of just like, I don't know, there.
Yeah, they're just there, handing stuff to people who are beating cops. I'm not here to beat a cop. I'm just here to step on him once you beat him. I'm just part of the giant force pushing the doors in and streaming in there. We didn't fight with any cops. I was too busy building a gallows. Your Honor.
They've taught us a lesson. Don't even come to Washington. Don't even come there if you want to march against us, because we will have everything about you. Yeah. We will open, like they haven't already. And
yeah, I don't know why you're worried about it then. We will have don't come and march in the nation's capital of the most powerful country in the world because we will know everything about you when you schedule a march on Washington. Especially since the last one you did was a violent insurrection.
they're teaching people you can't do it. Afghanistan is a great example. And
Is it? I'm getting tired of this already. I'm not going to do this whole thing. It's an hour long. I'll do another couple minutes. But have you ever seen two men just jibber jabber about bullshit, just using buzzwords to make each other feel good? This is like watching these two guys spoon feed each other mac and cheese and donuts.
think that you're right.
Welcome to Salt and Fat with Glenn Beck and Doc Simpkin, or whatever this, Doc Kibbe.
That these liberty things, especially from COVID, are an important catalyst. But I think the move like Afghanistan was bigger and could be bigger. And it's because, you know me, I've studied Bonhoeffer and Gandhi and Jesus and Abraham Lincoln
and learned nothing.
Anybody who has had these kind of
Mein Kampf, yeah, sure,
that were successful, Bonhoeffer being the exception. And
of course,
Bonhoeffer, I really spent a lot of time with. Where did he go wrong? He went wrong. He didn't go wrong. He was too late. The Judeo-Christian ethic, the love your neighbor, had gone away.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you mean like the kind of feeling that would make you want to wear a mask when you knew there was a contagious disease going around that you might be asymptomatically carrying just for, a short while, maybe 18 months or so that we could get a grip on it so you wouldn't accidentally kill someone just by saying hello. That kind of love your neighbor kind of thing that Christians would be, I guess, on board with right out of the gate. That's what's gone away. You're saying that went away. It was just too late. It was too late.
And that's what we saw with Afghanistan. America recoiled from that because we still understand honor.
What?
And that was the biggest example of.
What do you mean we still understand honor? Trump and Stephen Miller denied the special immigrant visa people the ability to sign up or kick them off the list for years leading up to the exit. He had no plan for getting them out. It was completely dishonorable. You are a clown.
Dishonor any of us have ever seen in our lifetime.
No. The dishonor would truly be the last 4 years where apparently there was a magic plan, but Trump didn't use it because, he didn't feel like it was going to be ugly and messy.
And that was really eye-opening, I think, to a lot of people.
No, it really wasn't. And like I said, we're out of Afghanistan. We're out.
Vote Democrat, who are not leftists, but vote Democrat.
Yeah.
And they saw that and went, wait, we're doing what?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't even say that. The door is closing on even being able to say, wait, what? We're doing what?
Made no sense.
Wait a minute. It makes no sense. We've been saying we were going to get out of Afghanistan for 15 years. We're actually going to do it?
More they expose themselves with some core principles, being against real core principles.
Oh, you mean like setting a date, let's say for an abstract May of next year, and doing nothing to prepare for that date as far as extracting people who had helped us and whose lives would be in danger once we left. Nothing? No? Just negotiate with the Taliban to get us out without getting shot at, and as long as we're out by that date, but no plan whatsoever to get the special immigrant visa people out. No? That's that kind of thing. Is that the lesson we learned? That's the lesson you guys learned, right? That Trump set Stephen Miller and Donald Trump are your moral compass in this circumstance? And 13 service members had to pay with their lives because of the crush at the airport because this asshole thinks Trump and Stephen Miller were right to delay that process and overlap it with the normal removal of military and civilian personnel. We could have gotten 60,000 people out. We could have gotten everybody out last year during COVID. Everybody. Why didn't Trump do it? He had a perfect plan. It was a perfect plan.
The better it will get for freedom.
I've been having this debate on my show, and I don't know exactly where I stand on this. But
well, it's good. I'm glad you've been having the debate, and you don't know where you stand. It's better to debate from a point of view that's where you're standing on sand on Jell-O. And nothing's better than a debate between two people who don't know where they stand on an idea.
The shockingly incompetent withdrawal from Afghanistan, we shouldn't even call it withdrawal. It was a train wreck.
Well, technically speaking, it was a withdrawal. We have withdrawn. We are no longer there. You could say that, for example, Trump's lack of a withdrawal, or the fact that he has admitted that his quote-unquote withdrawal that was supposed to happen on May 1st was actually not going to be a withdrawal and that we were going to stay forever, that would have been a train wreck. But obviously, the shocking thing to these guys is not that we have been in Afghanistan for 15 years past when we had completed any portion of the mission that we were there to do in the first place, but that in the last 4 years, we could have left at any time. Nothing changed. Nothing.
It's just how much government sucks, or is it evil?
Is
evil. It stupid or evil?
So I've learned a couple of things. First of all,
if you wear a denim shirt and jeans like this, and you walk around in downtown Phoenix, people will say, "Hey, nice Canadian tuxedo." I've learned that. I've also learned that nothing hides a neck waddle like a cowboy scarf. And
I have been willing to be on the bandwagon that Joe Biden doesn't know, oatmeal from pudding at this point.
Yeah.
But I don't believe that.
How close are we to it? I mean, are we up close to the pudding? Maybe it's a parfait. Maybe it's sort of a mixture of things. Maybe it's not pudding. It's yogurt and oatmeal together or whatever, but it's got a little bit of vanilla pudding in there and it's mixed up the whole thing. Doesn't know oatmeal from pudding. This is by the way, ageism from the world's oldest 8-year-old.
I think he is lucid enough to be calling some of the shots. And
yeah, just enough to be evil, but not enough to know what the responsibility for it is. This is the hard part. This is the corner that Glenn Beck has painted himself into, that he's spent so much time trying to convince people that Biden doesn't know what's going on. And everybody who watches the speech goes, speech is, he clearly knows what's going on, that he's got to back into this shit. And he's got to do both sides of that argument. He's a malevolent crime boss who's got his tentacles in everything, but he doesn't know oatmeal from pudding. That's the argument.
Afghanistan, I believe he called and is still calling Afghanistan.
Really? Are they picking up, "Hello, I've just got to..." Sorry, that's just wrong. Hello? Yeah, this is Afghanistan. Guys, it's Joe Biden on the phone. Yeah. He wants us to, yeah. What? Nobody left behind. Okay, cool. He says nobody should be left behind. Anybody still want to leave? No? They're going to stay. These are all dual citizens. Yeah. Yeah, no. Most of them are in the poppy trade, so they'd rather stay. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, one of the Sacklers is here from Purdue Pharmaceutical. How'd you know that? Drones. I see. Why are you laughing so hard? Hello? He did it again. He called us and he hung up.
But there is also something else that's going on. And
aliens. Probably aliens.
I said, what was it?
I don't remember what you said either.
Weeks ago, I think, on the air on a Tuesday morning, somebody said evil. And I said, let's not throw around evil. Let's not, there's a lot of things involved here, but let's not throw around evil. By noon that day, I got a briefing, and Matt, there is no other way to define what's going on in Afghanistan other than evil.
Yeah.
I can tell you that there are political reasons, there are petty reasons, there are negotiation reasons, but the number one reason is flat out evil.
So Biden's just like sitting in his seat going, "Oh, the dead and dying Afghans and Americans. Oh, I mean, yeah, it's difficult to get them out. And yeah, some of them don't have paperwork. And yeah, we're negotiating with some of them were sneaking out through the side. We can't say, but evil.
I've seen things that
you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I've seen sea beams glitter in the dark near the 10 Hauser gates. All these moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Thank you. Thanks very much.
I not only said it was evil, I said
it was evil, so as to say evil.
This is what they're doing to our face. What is it that they're doing behind our back?
Well, I wouldn't turn around too fast. You might throw something.
I am willing to renounce my citizenship if this is who we are. And
please do. Yes. Glenn, please do this. Renounce your citizenship and can we all pick a country? Which one are you going to? Belarus? What do you think? Russia? Like you and I can't wait for the action movies. You and Seagal. He plays Karate Man, and you're the dopey, B grade Tom Arnold character. Yeah. Bye. Knock yourself the fuck out.
Going to become. The things that I have seen are beyond imagination and beyond excuse.
Yeah.
By the way, nothing is beyond imagination unless you have a shitty imagination. Secondly, he hasn't seen any of that shit. And he's not saying what it is, by the way. What have you seen that is beyond imagination? What? That you tried to land planes while we were getting our planes out, and they couldn't divert security for your planes when we were getting our planes out, and then we have other strategies to get other people out, but you still wanted to land your planes, and your planes are actually not going to be checked when they leave to see if the people leaving are actually who you say they are, or if they're loaded with fucking poppies and we don't know. Like, those kind of things.
Well, I always apply, whenever I look at something that the government has done that is shocking to all of my values and my understanding about how the world works.
Oh, you mean like passing the Civil Rights Amendment and protecting voting rights for people, or the Violence Against Women Act, shit like that, you mean?
Apply one of two filters to try to understand what's going on. So my Hayek filter, did they have a knowledge problem? Is central planning, even when it comes to nation building, so grossly incompetent that
if only they had the skills it's taken to build this lovely set to recreate the government of Afghanistan.
The results should have been predictable if you understood how government fails. Or is there sort of an incentive problem, and that gets into the power and the corruption?
Here's another one, and I'll throw this out for you. Maybe two of you idiots can consider this for a second. Perhaps you consider the potential and what will happen, and not doing anything and what will happen. And in between the two of these things, you recognize that there are no good choices, and you just have to make a decision anyways, and no one's going to like it. Adult shit. Instead of this artificial binary, which this asshole and Glenn Beck are somehow magically making up. There is a version of this where everything works out fine and we stay, and there's a version of everything works out fine and we leave. And why didn't we pick one of those two when neither one actually exists?
The evil part. And it's always some combination of those two things. Government.
No, it isn't. It is not. It is clearly not. Because there is absolutely nothing in this asshole's equation for shit happens. Life, human beings, an actually difficult circumstance. Floods, wars, terrorism. Get fucked.
Government can't plan even if it wanted to, but if it could plan, the people with that much power are always going to be corrupted by competing agendas.
No, they are not. No, they are not. That's just dumb. If no one has a competing agenda in a chaotic moment. What kind of zombie movie bullshit is this? No one has control of a house that is surrounded by zombies. So somebody's shitty plan, let's all go upstairs, let's all hide in the basement. These are not people trying to manipulate within the circumstance to come out better. They're just panicking and trying to survive, and they're having a huge disagreement over whether either side is tenable. Both have up and downside. Both are shitty. Both might fail miserably. But you have to make a decision. This asshole and Glenn are leaving that part out of the equation entirely. And you know why? Because they don't actually give a fuck. I'm done with these guys. This is as much as I can stomach. This thing goes on for an hour, and we've watched 16 minutes of this, and it's nothing. It is genuinely nothing. Piss off. Okay, speaking of dumb, apparently, word is getting back to Dan Bongino, who is looking for a teepee for his bunghole, and who is the current winner, at least at this point, of our 5 Eggs Award. That he's gotten 5 eggs. 5 eggs! More than any other person in our in our repertoire of clips to go to. And it seems that our word on the street and the clips that I'm doing about Dan are getting back to young Dan, and he's having an emotional reaction to it because I guess being called a dummy is starting to dig at him. He's starting to suspect that it's quite possible that we're correct. And this one's called "Are Democrats Really This Stupid?" It's got a whopping 831 views. I don't think you're getting your money's worth, Dan. By the way, is it Dan Bongino? I can't tell from the number of logos on the screen behind you. Perhaps put it on your mic box in front of your stand there. Maybe even rotate it so that people have to take effort to read it. Therefore, it psychologically makes them more engaged. Or perhaps you can just keep getting every time you're on. Okay, so this is, are Democrats really this stupid? This is, I don't know which Democrats he's talking to or about. We will find out.
Drudge right now. If it's still up, I'm not sure. With the
White House Border Patrol with whip, obviously horrific.
Sure, by the way. White House Border Patrol with whip, obviously horrific. This is on Drudge. You see a Border Patrol agent on a horse.
It's the reins of the horse that he had, by the way. That not a whip.
According to the picture, Drudge Report and others that have put this headline up apparently want you to believe this is a whip. It's a whip. The White House, of course, is forced to respond to that. Now, if you are not a liberal, meaning you're an intelligent person, because liberals are colossal morons.
For the record, I absolutely qualify as a liberal. Please continue.
Stupidest people on planet Earth.
Oh, all right. I bet you could give me a run for my money, though, Dan.
You would realize that is not, in fact, a whip. It is a rein for a horse, and they are not.
Yeah, I just spotted that. I just saw the picture myself.
Whipping anyone. They are turning illegal.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Excuse me, dum-dum. You can absolutely whip someone with anything. It doesn't have to be a whip for you to whip someone. As a matter of fact, using an extra long rein to whip someone works just fine. You ever been whipped with a belt? Has anybody ever come up to you, nice whip you got around your waist? Is that a dress whip or a casual whip? It's a belt, but I can whip you with it. See how that works? Jesus, this is dumb.
Crossers back to where they came from. Now, if you're a liberal, you believe people got whipped. He was telling me he was talking to a bunch of people. No, Jim, I'm sorry. Producer Jim had this argument with a bunch of people yesterday. Again, they're liberals. Folks, I want you to understand, liberals are not smart people.
Okay, why are you showing a still image and not the actual video? So hold on, let's see. I want to see where people are so dumb that they're not grasping what's going on here. Let's see. Border Patrol whipping. Let's say just give them the benefit with reins of horse. Let's see if we get some. Here you go. Yeah. Border Patrol agents are using reins like whips to round up Haitian immigrants. How is that? U.S. officials to probe whip-like cords used against migrants. That's their reins that they're holding. This guy right here. This is the. This is Al Jazeera. This guy is using Al Jazeera is calling it whips.
No, shortcuts.
Orange whip. 3 orange whips. Yeah, whip-like cords. Yeah, here we go. So, there you go. Yeah, dude's... He's using extra long reins to whip at people with them. Photographs and reports of border agents on horseback using what appear to be whips, okay, on Haitian migrants. Does the administration think that's an appropriate tactic? Can we speak to that? Or people are upset about that? Yeah, understandably so. I've seen some of the footage. I don't have the full context. I can't imagine what context that would make that appropriate, but I don't have additional details. And certainly I don't have additional context, April. I don't think anyone seeing the footage would think that was acceptable or appropriate. Yeah, so that's... They're using the reins of their horses, extra long reins on there, specifically for that purpose, to whip people, and that's exactly what's going on. But this is, Dan Bongino thinks this is a gotcha because, and this doesn't apply to all conservatives. I'm going to do Dan Bongino's crowd a favor that Dan Bongino is not willing to do, to respond in kind with, is that I don't believe all conservatives are as dumb as Dan Bongino, because if that were true, we would have far more car accidents and people riding their dirt bikes off of barns into kiddie pools full of fresh cement and going, watch this. Not all conservatives not only are as dumb as Dan Bongino, they couldn't possibly be. Just for the record. So here we go. There we go. Yeah.
Are bathed in ignorance. The evidence is everywhere. I'll prove it to you at the end of this segment with a clip by Bill Maher. They don't know anything. I'm sorry to tell you. These are stupid people.
Again, everybody who's described this, except for that one clip you held up from Drudge, was it? Described it as whip-like. Again, Arizona Central, Al Jazeera, The Independent, Border Patrol didn't go far enough to round up patients. Really, the Arizona Central Border Patrol agents seem to be using horse reins as whips. That's TMZ. Anger as border boss defends using whips in round. Let's see. Footage also showed Border Patrol appear to threaten migrants with a whip or horse rein, which has been condemned by both Biden and the Trust Index. Border did not. Okay, did not use. There you go. This is the pushback. Did not use whips when confronting migrants. They used reins as whips. I mean, we're splitting whips at this point. Here we go. Border Patrol. This is the Daily Caller. Horseback Border Patrol agents accused of whipping migrants with reins reassigned to desk duties. Yeah. But please tell me how, let me guess. Are we going into the same category of like calling it's not a clip, it's a magazine. God, people are so stupid.
Ed, why are you calling liberals stupid? Because they're stupid. They are I'm really sorry, they're stupid. If you think that's a whip, you are a dumb person.
Yeah, most people don't. They're couching this because the people are looking at footage on their phones or other stuff, but it looks like a whip, but it's clearly a rein. If you look even further, all the stories about it have said using a whip or reins or using their reins to whip someone. The distinction is that they are using something to whip people. It's got to be difficult going through life this confused, isn't it, Dan? Can you imagine, every day just sitting down in front of a microphone and a camera and having to defend yourself against the accusations that you're a stupid, stupid man? It must be very difficult for you, Dan.
It's not a whip. That's not Indiana Jones on the horse. That's a Border Patrol agent with horse reins. If you think...
What's he using the horse reins for? What's he doing with them? When is he, like when my dad gave me a whooping when I was a kid, and he actually used a whoop. It was very hard to find.
It's a whip, and you're a liberal. You're an idiot. I don't know what to tell you. And
yeah, now address the fact that it was a rein and he was using it to whip people. Do that part. Because nobody who watches my show thinks it was a whip. Nobody that I'm aware of thinks it was a whip. We're all aware it was a rein, and they were using their reins to whip people.
Media thinks you're an idiot. Here, the El Paso Times, apparently. On this Twitch, he covered this. The agent swung his whip menacingly, reports the El Paso Times, and major national outlets pass it on. It's not...
Well, no, but they've all addressed it since and said with reins or said reins. Why the hell does Twitchy and the El Paso Times, why is that liberals now? Is the El Paso Times the arbiter of liberal thought?
Whip. If you think it was a whip, you are probably a liberal, which means you're a moron. It just wasn't a whip, okay?
Did he whip someone with it? Was he whipping somebody with a leather strand, a strap of leather? Was he whipping people with it? It wasn't a whipping post. It was just a fence post we tied you to and then whipped you.
Here's this reporter. What's her name? Shannon Pettypiece? Is that even a real name?
I don't know. Bongino. Tell me, is Shannon Pettypiece a real name? Dan Bongino, who's looking for DP for his bunghole.
She works for NBC. She's the White House reporter. Quotes this piece. The agent swung.
Yes, she took a quote from the El Paso Times. Right?
Whip menacingly, charging his horse. It's not a whip. By the way, where are the fact checkers? Answer: the fact checkers are nowhere because they're clowns. Fact checkers aren't serious people. They're leftist propagandists.
Well, and then obviously they're too stupid to know what a real whip is.
Media, again, mold stupid liberals and get them to believe things that aren't true. Very simply. They tell...
Hey, moron. Did they whip someone with it? I'll give you an example. Is a pistol a whip? No? Well, then it must be impossible to pistol whip someone. That's how do you even pistol whip someone? Can you shoot bullets from a whip? Can you swing can you crack a pistol without firing it?
Lies that are easily falsified by doing just a modicum of basic research is a whip. No, it's a rein. And dopey liberals who never create a choke point by doing their own homework just believe it. Like the clown morons they are.
I get the pejoratives. I get that that's what you're stuck with. I get it, Dan. I mean, I know you don't have much else in there bouncing around in your dome. We all understand. Don't we, guys? We get it. You got a very limited vocabulary to pull from. You're very easily confused. We know this. You can't seem to process the idea that you could whip someone with something else, and that all the stories have mitigatory language about it. It appears to be a whip or a rein, but they're using their reins to whip people, and that's clearly not right, and therefore people were disturbed by it, and therefore it's wrong behavior, and those guys have been assigned to desk duty because they were doing that. Dan, you're a dum-dum, and you just learn to live with it. I think that's the easiest thing. I think if you just learn to kind of like lean into your dummy, tendencies. It'll be a lot easier on you in the future. Just go, I don't know. I don't know. I don't get it. Just say that a lot. And deep breaths.
You got NBC puts it out there. Doesn't bother to fact check that at all. Then you have other morons. Joy Reid, the gold medal winner in
Wonderful. These images from 2021 or 1851. Sawyer Hackett says rounding up refugees with whips. This is unfathomable cruelty towards people fleeing disaster and political ruin. The administration must stop this. This is beyond repulsive of the images from 2021 or 1851 because it's black people being whipped. That's her reaction to it. She doesn't seem to care whether it's a rain or not. Whipping is going on.
Dopey media talking head Olympics. You can always count on her to say something stupid. She is incapable of doing even basic research. Joe has been researching her homophobic blog post for a long time. He has not been able to come up with an answer. She said she had the FBI on it. Joe's been at it. He's been very busy. Joe has not been able to come up with an answer if Joy wrote those posts or not, which is weird. Well, here's Joy Reid. This is beyond repulsive. Are these images from 2021 or 1851? Of course, making a comparison, what you would think, to slavery and elsewhere, because that's what Joy does, because she is the queen of misinformation.
Well, why? Are we to assume that that horseback riding people were not capable of doing similar things back then, using their reins as whips? Where's the confusing part of it? Obviously, the Sawyer Hackett says with whips, but she says, are these images from 2021 or 1851? This looks like that kind of... obviously, it's from 2021. That guy has got takeout.
Here's another example of why liberals are so ignorant. The media tells them things. Liberals don't create a choke point for the media. They don't fact check the media.
Yes. Dan Bongino always makes sure that he chokes out the media every time he can. Any story he gets, he tries to get it in a chokehold and squeeze the life out of it. It's just how he handles bad news.
Just propagate media lies. This is a lie. It was a lie.
Well, no, people are being whipped. You haven't addressed that yet. Address that part of it. Yes, they're being whipped with these things, but they're not actual whips. They're reins. They're taking their reins and whipping people. It's not the same as a whip. Because I'm saying that, because it's attached to a horse. And therefore, explain that part, stupid.
Count on these so-called thought leaders on the left to propagate the lie, and they never check it. I promise you, I hear information from people, I check it, even on the conservative side. That's why sometimes we're not first, but we're usually right.
Very seldomly right, for the record. And you often, as much time as you allegedly take thinking things through, you have some of the most idiotic takes we've ever seen. Am I not right, gang? We've seen some like amazing levels of confusion and like brain fog level responses to regular news stories from Dan. We could always count on a Dan Bongino clip for the dumbest take. I'm not kidding. Like there's meaner takes. There's more politically opportunist takes. Glenn Beck would be, in that zone. Ben Shapiro. But if you want the absolute dumbest take, Dan Bongino is your guy. And by the way, this is not me saying that all conservatives are stupid. Oh, by no means. I'm being a lot more generous to people than Dan Bongino's Judeo-Christian values will allow him to be. I'm saying that Dan Bongino is a dum-dum. It's brutal. We're halfway through this clip. What do you think the odds are? He goes, yes, it's a rein, and they are whipping people with their reins, but it's not the same thing. Halfway through this, you think he turns that corner?
Here's another example of why libs are so darn stupid all the time. They was whipped. Here's an article by CNBC by Berkeley Lovelace Jr., a human being apparently incapable of doing anything real for a living outside of propagating fake news. Here, listen to this headline. This is, again, why liberals are in their house with a double mask, 3 face shields, wrapped in a bubble suit with gloves on, spraying themselves with Lysol every 10 minutes because of headlines like this by Berkeley Lovelace Jr. Love to see Berkeley Lovelace Sr. COVID is
Why?
actually America's deadliest pandemic as U.S. fatalities surpass 1918 flu estimates. Oh, my God.
All right, push back on it. Let's hear it. Show us the details. It was actually, we think it was 100 million.
I can't take this stupid today, folks. I'm sorry. So again, you want to see why liberals are so dumb? They believe the Border Patrol are whipping people at the southern border.
They are whipping people at the southern border. They're using their horse reins to do it. There's video of it. You didn't play the video. You showed a picture because you were making the point that people were saying whip when it's actually a rein, but you wouldn't show the footage that actually shows them whipping people because then you'd have to eat your entire first half of this stupid chunk. What's your answer to the thing you just put up?
And that COVID is the most deadly pandemic the U.S. has ever seen, at least since 1918, because they can't read and do homework. If you go down the piece all the way towards the end, Berkeley Lovelace Jr. is not counting on you actually reading the piece. He's just counting on you clicking on the headline. You will find out that it's not even close to the most deadly pandemic we've seen in U.S. history because you adjust these things for population size. For Berkeley Lovelace Jr., if you lived on an island with 50 people.
I see. Because the percentage of people was way lower, the number of dead should be a lot higher now. It'd have to be, 60% of the populace. Is that where he's going? Not the actual number of dead. So statistically by population. They didn't say per capita. They meant per person. But that's where he's going with this.
Right? And 10 people died, right? So 10 people died. You'd be like, that's 1/5 of the island. My gosh, that's really bad. And then 50 years later, 12 people die on an island from a different pandemic. Oh my gosh, more people died. It's the deadliest thing ever. And you find out 5,000 people lived on the island. Would you say this? No, you wouldn't, because Berkeley Lovelace Jr. is apparently unaware of how to do even basic math. So hysterical headline, and down later in the piece, he knows, or she, I don't even know what it is, he knows liberals won't read this thing, right? Don't care.
What, you don't even care who wrote the article. I would, a little detail, if I might. Dan, while you're jumping through your shirt collar about this, let's just use your per capita versus percentage of population argument. Also in 1918, when this happened, and the volume of human beings died, we had no vaccine for it. We had none of the medical interventions that we had. We had none of the ways to inform the public the same way. A lot of people were getting their mail by horseback still. You couldn't warn people to protect themselves. It took a lot longer. There were large swaths of the country where that information trickled down, took so long that more people died. And even with all of the modern affectations, all the extra stuff, our entire healthcare system, all the available technology we have, the number of human beings who died is higher from a pandemic.
By the way, here, down further, it says in 1918, for example, the U.S. population, that's when the Spanish flu epidemic broke out, the U.S. population was less than a third of today's, with an estimated 103 million people living in the U.S. Today, there are nearly 330 million people living in the U.S. That means the 1918 flu killed one of every 150 Americans compared to 1 in 500 who have died from COVID.
Yeah, 1 in 500 is way better. Secondarily, most people who were alive at that time didn't fly on an airplane in their entire lives. Most of the people who were alive that time they did not have a car. So people's interactions were separated by large swaths of land. So the ability for the disease to make it into places and spread the way it does now with our modern transportation, our modern interactions. There weren't any Bonnaroos. There weren't any Lollapaloozas. There weren't giant festivals. That shit didn't exist. They didn't have the ability to have super spreader events put on by the former president at regular interval to spike deaths throughout the area. It would have been worse if we did.
And that's assuming dying.
That's also assuming we're done with COVID. Right. That's assuming COVID is over now. It was 1 in 1,000. Now it's 1 in 500. There's no reason to believe that in the Midwest and the red states and in places where they're blowing off masks and vaccines that we couldn't get to a number closer to that population number, because assholes like this think that anybody who's concerned about it, who wears masks and whatnot, is a stupid liberal who deserves to be mocked for being concerned about the spread of the Delta variant. Even though they've been vaccinated, they're concerned about assholes like this, who knows that most of his listeners won't get vaccinated or refuse to, and therefore they will be the first to die.
COVID, and now with COVID, which
Thanks,
are
buddy.
not the same thing. Again, why are liberals so stupid? Because they are guided around like mules, like stupid mules, like beasts of burden by their media masters,
Well,
and
we do work for a living, yeah.
never, ever bother to fact check anything ever. You know who explained this perfectly? A liberal, by the way, Bill Maher, again, about a week ago, talking about how liberals never do their homework and are morons, and they think things that aren't true because they're idiots. They follow Joy Reid,
Is that how it works?
CNBC and elsewhere, hysterical headlines, and they never, ever do any homework. And then their big tech people block them from getting to the truth with things about ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine.
That's if only we had gotten ivermectin early on, we could all be sucking horse paste and have survived all this. And hydroxychloroquine is great if you haven't developed any symptoms at all.
And elsewhere, and they love
80% of people who get COVID and carry it don't develop symptoms.
block because they want to be servants. They love serving their media and government gods. Here's Bill Maher summing up their ignorance perfectly. Check this out.
I have to cite a survey that was in the New York Times, which is a liberal paper, so they weren't looking for this answer. But they were talking about this. The question was, what do you think the chances are that you would have to go to the hospital if you got COVID? Mm-hmm. And Democrats thought that was way higher than Republicans. 41% of Democrats, and the answer is between 1 and 5%. Okay. 41% of Democrats thought it was over 50%. Another 28% thought it was 20 to 49%. So 70% of Democrats thought it was way, way, way higher than it really was.
Right.
Liberal media has to take a little responsibility for that, for scaring the shit out of people. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because it's much harder for every touring act to sell tickets in blue states.
Oh, interesting.
They're afraid to go out of the house.
I see.
Whereas in red states, it's all good to go.
Yeah, but it's also in red states, it's super spreader events. It's not good to go. This is what's causing the spike in those states. And yes, a lot of people are overreacting to whether or not they'll be hospitalized. The concern for a lot of people, myself included, is not necessarily that if I get it, I'll be hospitalized. A lot of people don't feel that way. The concern, and I don't know who they were asking, the concern for me is what's the potential for me giving it to my kid who can't get vaccinated yet, and what reaction would his body have? Does he possibly have something that might make him more susceptible? And what a horrifying way to start his life out with that kind of damage. So that's my point of concern. I am erring with an abundance of caution. But even still, this is not an explanation, by the way, of what he's saying. This is about caution and fear-mongering in the news necessarily.
Here you go. So if you're in a blue state, don't go out, sit at home, die in your house, wait to die because the lethal coronavirus, the worst pandemic in human history, is going to come to get you. Yeah, none of that's actually true.
Nah, it's not actually true. As a matter of fact, there's not even a red state spike right now. I don't even know what, I can't even joke about this. Like I was going to joke about, I don't even know what red state people are worried about. Why don't they just go out in mass and hang out and make out and pass it around, have little COVID parties and shit like that. Let's see. COVID rates, U.S. states. 680,000 dead people. And There you go. Here's your California being supposedly a big blue state, but technically we know because of the recall and the like that the state is pretty much half and half, just about. And a lot of the folks that you're seeing pass away are Republicans in the state. Texas, second with the number of deaths, 62,000 people dead in that state, 3.9 million cases. Florida, there's New York, Illinois, a few more. There you go. Let's see if we go by, does it allow me to stack them up by deaths? Can we check them by deaths? There we go. Deaths, California, Texas, New York, Florida, Pennsylvania, Illinois, New Jersey, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio. And this isn't people just with damage too. That's the other thing. So it's people who were on intubate, who were intubated, might need a lung transplant, blah, blah, blah. That's another segment of it. And then these are the cases of people who've gotten it. And that's how they spread it. And that's who dies. And in all this, 600 and where is it? 680,000 dead in the United States.
You go to a red state, people go out and live their lives. Proper precautions, do your thing.
Proper precautions, do your thing. Oh, you mean like beat people up because you don't want to wear a mask? Let's see. Texas man attacks over mask thumb. What was that? Yeah. Just go out, do your thing. Bite somebody's thumb off because they tell you to wear a mask in a hospital. Because you're going to the hospital and they have a mask policy. Just bite a dude. That's all you do. Who cares? The guy literally, a man is accused of assaulting a security guard, including biting his thumb, police said, after becoming upset over a hospital's mask policy in Wichita Falls, Texas. Chad Stalins, 37, was arrested Monday on charge of assault on a public servant after becoming upset with Kel West Hospital's mask policy after he was asked to leave several times. Stalin attacked a security guard, striking him in the face and neck area, said a Facebook post. Stalins then bit the thumb of the security guard after he lifted his hands to push Stalins away, causing severe injury. This isn't the first time the hospital's had to deal with someone getting upset over the mask mandate at the hospital. We don't know if they're coming in because they have COVID. We don't know what their symptoms are until they arrive with a mask on. And certainly, if they're going back to visit, we can't go see patients if they're on the floor and not have a mask on. The guard was treated at the scene. I mean, lucky to be injured at the hospital. Apparently, he was just at the barbershop when he got his mugshot done. Just do your thing. Standard precautions. Be prepared to bite someone's thumb.
I feel sorry for these liberals. I do. Because they choose to be.
I appreciate that. That's very sweet of you. I appreciate your concern, dum-dum. We're okay. We're going to be all right. We're all right. We're not afraid. We're just taking reasonable precautions. We know what the limits are on the Delta variant. We're monitoring whether or not you'd need a booster shot, but we're going to get through this wave like we expect to, and we'll take care of ourselves and our loved ones and the like, and we'll be the ones going out knowing full well that we're okay. And if you don't get vaccinated, you'll have to wear a mask someplace, and then you can go bite someone's thumb.
Stupid. Imagine what kind of life that must be. Choose to be.
It's pretty cool, actually. I have a pretty great life. It's really fun, actually. We laugh a lot. I have live shows. Like all my shows. Yeah, obviously you got to be vaccinated, so that makes it a lot easier.
So dumb all the time to never believe anything what you believe is wrong. Chance of being hospitalized 50%. It's actually 1 to 5%. You're off by a factor of 10.
Yeah, except it depends on what region you're in as well, too, and whether you're obese or not. So let's say, did they add in that poll, for example, whether somebody had a comorbidity? Was there anything in that poll and this is something we'd have to ask Bill Maher, that noted that the person being asked, they said, what are your chances of ending up in the hospital if you got COVID? Were they asking people who were obese, had an immunological disease, had other issues that would make them believe that their chance is very high? Or was the question, do we think, what do you think the odds are that anybody who gets COVID ends up in the hospital is? Because I think you would have gotten a different number. Because anybody can just look at the kind of generalized facts of who's gotten it and who needs hospitalization, who doesn't. But yeah, anyways, Panic at the Disco. Let's see, where are we? Yeah, there's so much stuff, and I'm never gonna get to all of it. Okay, so I've said this a bunch, but I want to address this. If there is a purveyor worldwide of the message that the United States is that our borders are open and that everyone is allowed to come into the country, the only people pushing that message, telling the world that that is the case, are Republicans. There are no Democrats saying, yes, our borders are open. Yes, anybody can come in. Yes, it's free. It's a free for all across the border. No Democrats are saying that. Everybody who's on the news, on the regular, saying we have open borders and the borders are like they're just releasing people out into the country. They're not even testing you for COVID, all that kind of stuff. Anything you hear in that order is coming from Republicans. I have yet to find any footage of Democrats saying that at all, and I've been looking. But all the time that you will, if you turn on Fox in an airport in a foreign country, and they play them in a lot, and Sky News, any of those places, if they have Ted Cruz or somebody on, these folks are the ones saying our border is open. The only people saying worldwide on the news, on international news sources, that the American border is open to the people who are coming here are Republicans. Period. Now they could stop, except they would have to admit that they've been lying this whole time. So.
Senator Ted Cruz, Mr. Cruz, as always, sir, it's great to see you. This business.
You can't start with a lie right out of the box, Kudlow.
Getting it under control. Well, at least he acknowledges there's something that needs to be controlled. But I don't understand,
A lot. You don't understand a lot.
All of a sudden, you blink an eye, and there's 15,000 Haitians under a bridge in Texas. And by the way, I know we're trying to.
You don't. Their president was assassinated a few weeks ago, and then they had an earthquake, and then you can literally time that out to how long it took people to to traverse into other countries to escape, and then decide to come to the border.
Back, but there's apparently more coming from Colombia. Just what is going on here? How is this possible? This whole year, nothing's been solved at the border.
Well, because people like Ted Cruz are on the news all the time saying the border is open.
Well, I was actually down in Del Rio last Friday, and I saw firsthand the tragedy that has unfolded there.
What's the tragedy? That they're not getting in, or that they're gathering there? Because you've been on the news saying the border is wide open?
The cause is really simple and straightforward. If you go back to September 8th, just a couple of weeks ago, September 8th, there were between 700 and 1,000 people crossing illegally every day at Del Rio, and many of them would collect underneath the Del Rio International Bridge. On September 8th, the Biden administration had planes that were scheduled to go back to Haiti. The vast majority of the immigrants crossing at Del Rio are from Haiti. They had
like to, if I might, give me 1 second. Say that again. When was that?
Del Rio International Bridge. On September 8th, the Biden administration had...
Okay, on September 8th. Let's see. This is let's see, your situation report, September 20th, August 2021. Okay. Well, this is the most recent one. There are still earthquakes happening in Haiti, just so you know. It's still occurring. They're aftershocks after the earthquake. this is why they halted flights, because they'd had their president assassinated, and then there were earthquakes, and they'd been hit by a storm, and they were concerned that they would drop people off and they would just die or be killed. And so they were trying to figure out how to handle those folks. And then they worked out a deal with the Haitian government, and then they started sending them home.
Planes that were scheduled to go back to Haiti. The vast majority of the immigrants crossing at Del Rio are from Haiti. They had 900 people that were scheduled to be deported and sent back to Haiti. And on September 8th, the Biden administration canceled those flights and told everyone they could stay here instead. And what happened is those 900 Haitians, they pulled out their phones and they called their friends, they called their family, they texted their friends and family. And between September 8th and September 16th, when I was there, the numbers
just letting you know.
from 700 to the day I was there were 10,503, primarily Haitian.
And three. All right. You counted them yourself, did you?
Underneath that bridge. It was overwhelming the border control. It was more than they could process.
Yet nobody was storming across it. They actually handled it. Weird.
Even higher, up to 15,000. And there's a direct cause and effect. When you don't enforce immigration laws, when you tell people if you cross illegally, we, the Biden administration, will let you stay, you produce...
Yeah, they didn't say that. You're saying they're saying that. That's not what they're saying.
Humanitarian crisis that we have seen every day since January 20th when Joe Biden was sworn in.
You know, Senator, I honestly did not know that backstory. So that does...
What backstory? The backstory that you could trace this directly to when the Haitian president was assassinated, the storm hit, and an earthquake hit, and everybody just started scattering. And a bunch of folks have gone to all kinds of countries. This is just the ones that made it to the United States.
To explain it, because I couldn't figure it out. But I guess, sir, I want to get you to reconciliation before we lose you. But just last one on the immigration stuff.
He's already lost us.
I mean, they've had all year to get this thing fixed. The numbers crossing the border.
Well, no, this is a totally different circumstance. It's result of something entirely different. These are not migrants just going, economic migrants. These aren't people coming from Guatemala or Colombia or someplace like that. They're coming from Haiti. It's a totally different group of people. There's totally different reasonings. They're working to stabilize Haiti with the UN and other groups. This just happened.
Illegally are getting larger, not smaller.
Yep.
And I often wonder, this infrastructure bill, why the heck didn't our GOP friends, I'll say, but frankly, it could be Democrats too, put the wall in the infrastructure bill with all...
Yeah, that's what's missing here. There's just not a wall in Del Rio.
What's going on now? I mean, I can't think of a better infrastructure play than building a wall on the border. How did that not get done?
There's no doubt that Republicans should have fought for that to get in there as it
Del Rio border wall. Whoops, hold on. Stretch out, will you? There you go. Mean something like that?
The Democrats today support open borders. This is a man-made crisis. You showed that footage.
By the way, no, they don't. No, they do not. They do not support open borders. The only people going on the news and saying the borders are open are people like Ted Cruz. No one has been on the news saying the border is open more than Ted Cruz.
Of Biden at the UN saying we're going to get the border under control. Let me give you a place to start, Mr. President. Come to the Rio Grande Valley. See the disaster that you have created. We've had one...
He didn't assassinate the Haiti president or cause the storm or the earthquake that followed it up. That's why those people are leaving. And they didn't all go to the United States. Lots of people are leaving Haiti. A lot of them are going to Brazil and Colombia. there's 11.6 million people in Haiti. Let's see, Haiti population. Yeah, 11.26 million people in Haiti, and 10,000 of them after their president was assassinated. There was a tropical storm, a hurricane, and an earthquake. 10,000 of them have made their way to the U.S. border to try and get across or try to come into the country, and are apparently making themselves available to go through the process, either with paperwork or backpacks and all that kind of stuff. They actually are showing up. They're not storming it. There's some people trying to cross illegally, but all the people who are under the bridge that he's saying is a humanitarian crisis, all those folks are apparently queuing up to actually get a shot to come into the country under the asylum clause. 10,000 of them out of 11.26 million people in a country where their president had just had his brains blown out by a gang, and they followed that up with a hurricane and an earthquake, and it's still having recurring aftershocks there. But it's Biden's fault that Haiti's a mess.
0.2 million illegal immigrants since Joe Biden was sworn in as president, and it's the direct result of political decisions that Joe Biden and Kamala.
How many?
President, and it's the direct result of disaster that you have created. We've had 1.2 million illegal immigrants since Joe Biden was sworn in as president, and it's the direct.
What do you mean you've had them? Sexually? You must be exhausted. Let's see. Illegal, border crossings. Let's go with 2018. Clearly shows why the Trump administration is on the wrong track. Let's see. Southwestern border migrant apprehensions have dropped to early 1970s levels. There is no migrant crisis. In fact, the flow is nearly at the lowest point in half a century. The number of migrants apprehended about 396,000 people, the fifth lowest since 1973. This is early in 2018. 40% apprehended of children, families, migrant apprehensions for Border Patrol. That's because he stacked them outside the country. 2018, the average Border Patrol apprehended 23 migrants a year. Unaccompanied families, and there you go, unaccompanied family unit minors. There you go. This is when the spikes happen, by the way. Whoop. Do they have I don't know where they have this in. This is October 16th. Unaccompanied children. These are the numbers when they ebb and flow. And of course, we've stacked up people on the other side of the Mexican border all last year because of COVID. Solemn requests made for Mexican authorities, 14,900. Yeah, so they were on the rise up to that point. Let's see. Hold on one second. Let's see. To overall 20. Let's see. Total illegal apprehensions by month. Yeah, here, this is that's fiscal year 2000, 2001. Let me scroll through here. 2009. This is 2018, 2017. Let's see, 2018. Yeah, the lowest was 20. Let's see. So let me show you the Obama years real quick. This is 2008. Okay, so here's 2008. This is first year. They're coming in month to month, and this is the number, blah, blah, blah. Monthly total for that year was 723,000. That's the first year of the Obama administration. Then 556, then 463, then 340, then 364, 420 in 2013, 486, 337. Pretty static around that number. 415, 310, 404 in 2018. The lowest numbers were during the Obama-Biden administration. And they came in with a relatively large number their first year in, but it was in 2007, it was 876. In 2006, this is under Bush, a million one again, 931, 955, 1.2 million, that was 2001, 1.6 million, that was 2000. So we ebb through these basically at the beginning of each decade. That's your kind of timing on this. Just saying. Anyone else buffering a lot? I don't know. But we'll talk to me next year, Ted Cruz, when we get to this exact point and we have comprehensive immigration reform passed, or we've got some sort of system in place for a lot of this stuff, or we don't have an assassination that leads to this 10,000 number, which was totally predictable.
A result of political decisions that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have made. In particular, 3 decisions. Number one, on day one, they immediately halted construction of the border wall, literally dropped their tools. There's rusting rebar and equipment that is just laying out there because the Biden administration said, we don't care that we paid the contractors. We're not building another inch of the wall.
Right.
Number two,
because it was a waste, because it was already past areas where no one crosses.
Reinstated the failed.
It was cosmetic.
Policy of catch and release. It doesn't work, and it was a disaster. But number three,
Well, they didn't have catch and release. They do process and release. If you're processed and you're released, then after the processing, most people are expelled directly.
critically, they withdrew from the incredibly successful Remain in Mexico agreement. As you know, Larry, Remain in Mexico
It was very successful if you want women and children to be raped and trafficked and the like, because they're stuck in cartel towns in Mexico.
national agreement
They've
that
got legitimate asylum claims.
Trump negotiated with the government of Mexico that provided that anyone who crosses illegally into Mexico, typically from Central or South America, will remain in Mexico while their U.S. asylum case is proceeding. And that agreement was unbelievably successful. Last year,
You mean during COVID when no one was getting in?
we had the lowest rate of illegal immigration in
Yeah, we had the lowest rate of everything, Ted. We had COVID.
45 years. It was an
We
historic
had more COVID than Mexico.
success. On day one, Biden ripped up that agreement, and today we have the highest rate of illegal immigration.
That's because those people were still there, and the normal influx of people coming up. And then, of course, you've got this Haitian surge because of their problems in that country. You're just doubling the same people. And a lot of these people are just going to the back of the line and trying again.
In 21 years. And you know what Joe Biden doesn't want to see? He doesn't want to see the Biden cages in the Rio Grande Valley. Thousands upon thousands of children, little boys and little girls packed into cages. I've been there. I've seen them. But Biden won't go and Kamala Harris won't go. When I was last down in the Rio Grande Valley a couple of weeks.
Just kids in cages. We just keep them in there. We don't separate them from their parents. So you're talking about the kids that arrive on their own that are kept in cages for how long? How long are they kept there, Ted? Weeks and weeks, like they did in the Trump organization? Did they disappear? Are they untracked? What about the ones that were separated from their parents when they came up, made into unaccompanied minors, and then disappeared?
One
thing we do know about the kids, quote unquote, in cages that he's talking about is we know where they are.
Of COVID positivity in the Biden cages filled with children was 22%. It's a disaster, and it's a man-made disaster. And because of politics, Biden and Harris.
Wait, we're actually testing. The Trump administration didn't bother to do it. They just rejected them. We're testing these kids.
Are unwilling to fix it.
Getting a higher rate of positivity because we're getting a higher rate of testing.
Yeah, Senator, it's well said.
Yeah,
they're like
totally.
a deer in the headlights. They're unable to do anything to fix this thing. And like
They're unable to do anything to fix this thing. Say Biden flights, Haiti, and okay. U.S. and Mexico fly Haitian migrants away from border as pressure builds on Biden. Oh, really? Mexico is helping with that? Ciudad Acuna, Mexico. Mexico and the United States were on Wednesday preparing to fly more Haitian migrants away from chaotic U.S.-Mexico border camps as pressure mounted on U.S. President Joe Biden to stop expulsions of Haitians to their poor, disaster-hit homeland. And again, where's the rest? Is that it? Okay, I guess this is here. Migrants are separated from others as they're prepared to transport as others await to be processed in a makeshift camp under the bridge in Del Rio. This is the Mexico side. This is where we are. There you go. But this is what Remain in Mexico has given you. This is what Ted Cruz is proud of. This right here. Many of these people might have legit asylum claims. Many of them might be rejected outright. Trump didn't want to process any of them. Just the hell with it. Migrants seeking refuge in the United States across the Rio Grande River back across the border into Ciudad Acuna, Mexico from their camp in Del Rio, Texas on September 22nd. Migrants seeking asylum in the U.S. take shelter in makeshift migrant camp near the international bridge between Mexico and the U.S. as they await to be processed. Military and law enforcement vehicles on the border. There's these folks, and then that's the line, and we saw the same stuff again. There you go. So there's, and by the way, I know what you're thinking, but Hal, there's supposed to be hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of these people crossing through here. It's got to be an overwhelming number. But apparently, look at this. All these trucks, and these are the people. There you go. So, but again, the only person saying we have an open border, Ted Cruz.
The only people in the country that don't seem to understand there's a crisis down there, which needs. I mean, really, that little West Wing area there, it's the only part of the country that doesn't understand this. Sir, let me just get you quick on the last couple. At least the Senate parliamentarian ruled illegal immigration amnesty out of order. So that's a small plus. But besides the inflationist spending and the jobs-killing tax hikes, I want to ask you, Democrats now want Republicans in the Senate to join with them in raising the debt ceiling. Now, I've seen this movie before, sir, and you have.
Yeah, the Republicans raised it every time under Trump.
Too. In fact, we watched it together a few times. What's going to happen here? Why should you all join them in raising the debt ceiling, which has been blown out because of the spending? Why?
Well, I don't
So the U.S. doesn't default?
believe it's going to happen. I hope and believe that Republicans will stand firm. And the important thing to understand is the Democrats are playing a political game here. So they have 100% power to raise the debt ceiling on their own. They can do it on reconciliation. Reconciliation.
Right. They want, by the way, I mentioned this earlier. This is what the Republicans want. The Democrats only have one more reconciliation they can use this year. And they want them to use it on this and not on the $3.5 trillion plan. That's what's going on. If they use it on this, they don't have it till the next budgetary cycle to use. So they're hoping to run, head off the $3.5 trillion thing, which they want to do in reconciliation, which is now 3.2 because they took out the immigration aspects of it. And there's a bunch of other things that are in there that are going to get taken out too, that don't qualify for reconciliation. That said, what they want is Democrats to have to use up their reconciliation vote on this. Now, I personally think that the Democrats could, if they want to, just insist on another reconciliation vote, call it because of the nature of this, and just go ahead with it, or incorporate the two together. And this might be the leverage they need against Manchin and Sinema, where they incorporate the raising of the debt ceiling and this thing as a vote together. But that's a strategy thing. We'll see. I don't even know if that's technically possible in the rules.
Only takes 50 votes in the Senate. The Democrats have 50 votes in the Senate. It only takes a majority in the House.
Unless they filibuster it. Unless they filibuster, in which case it needs 60 to overcome the filibuster. That's the things but it's also budgetary, so they can do it with reconciliation. We'll see.
Democrats have a majority in the House. But what you're seeing Chuck Schumer do is he doesn't want to raise the debt ceiling using Democrats because he wants to rack up trillions in new spending, trillions in new taxes, and he wants to shift political blame. So he's trying to advance the debt ceiling using a procedural vehicle that requires 60 votes. He wants to get...
Because he still wants the reconciliation vote for the $3.5 trillion package. Because if they don't use it for that, then they're afraid the progressives in the House won't vote for the $1.7 trillion infrastructure bill because they lost that to raise the debt ceiling. That's the head off right now. And this is the leverage Republicans are using.
And Republicans to vote for the Democrats.
There he just hiccuped. He just burped, I think.
Massively irresponsible spending. I don't think it's going to work. I helped lead 46 Republicans in signing a letter, and 46 of us signed.
You led them in signing a letter? Oh, God. Follow me, men. Get your pens ready. Fasten your bayonets on your pens. Led them in signing a letter. The leadership. It's amazing.
Letter saying we don't want any part of the trillions in debt that you are bankrupting our kids and grandkids with. And so
clearly not.
What I think is going to happen is you're going to see Schumer and Pelosi play chicken. They're going to threaten a default. They're going to threaten a shutdown. And at the end of the day, Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden can raise the debt ceiling anytime they want. They don't need a Republican vote, and they're just playing political games otherwise.
Well, if you filibuster it, they do need Republican votes. That's the problem.
They don't want to own it. They will not own it. That's really what it boils down to.
Well, they owned it when Trump did it, even though, let's see. Dems raise debt ceiling under Trump. Look at that. There you go. Democrats to pair spending bill with raising debt ceiling, pressuring GOP. The approach essentially dares Republicans to follow through on their threats to oppose increasing the debt limit by coupling it with urgently needed federal spending. Top congressional Democrats announced on Monday that they would tack a measure lifting the federal borrowing limit through the end of 2022 onto a bill to keep the government funded through December, escalating a brewing showdown with Republicans who have vowed to oppose legislation need to avert fiscal catastrophe. The House is expected to take up the bill earlier this week as Democrats juggle work on their $3.5 trillion economic package with the pressing need to avoid a government shutdown in 10 days and a potential default for the national debt within weeks. But Republicans have warned repeatedly they are unwilling to support raising the debt ceiling, leaving the fate of both measures in doubt. In pairing the two, Democratic leaders hope to pressure Republicans into dropping their opposition and allowing passage of legislation that is expected to contain urgently needed spending, including disaster relief to help their states. Democrats, let's see, $1 trillion package passed. The Senate passed a sweeping bipartisan infrastructure package on August 10th, capping weeks of intensive at the final vote. Final tally was 69 in favor, 30 against. Main areas of spending, $110 billion to roads, bridges, and other stuff. $25 billion for airports, 66 for railways, giving Amtrak the most funding it's relieved. Utilities, $65 billion. Pollution cleanup, $21 billion. This is bipartisan responsibility, just as it was under my predecessor. Blocking it would be inexcusable. True. In their statement, Pelosi and Schumer singled out the need to pay for the $900 billion pandemic relief bill that became law in the final weeks of the Trump administration with bipartisan support. The Democrats have raised the debt ceiling each time. They get to pretend like they didn't.
And all this spending, Biden inflation, job-killing tax hikes. I wish I had more time with you, Senator. It's such a pleasure.
That's not true. No one actually believes that.
You again. Hope you'll come back.
Larry, you open with a lie that it's good to see him, and then you close with a lie that you wish you had more time with him. It's just rude. No one feels that way about Ted Cruz. No one.
Visit us soon, Senator Ted Cruz in Texas.
To it, Larry.
All right, thanks, sir.
Yeah. All right, I have so much stuff today. You got this and this and this and Glenn and his stupid little outfit. All right, just a little of this, maybe.
When you're a member of America First Credit Union, the only experience that matters to us is yours, truly.
Credit Union.
So, guys, this is big news. Election news.
Guys, this is big news. I'm trying to give a shit.
Out of Russia. The U.S. is apparently, according to a couple major media organizations, condemned Russia's election crackdown as Putin's party wins a big majority.
Yeah, because he jailed everyone that was running against him.
Right? Okay, so you would think that would be a big deal. That's something that's sort of interesting. So, according to Axios, major gains by an opposition group were erased on Monday in Russia. After the Electoral Commission added millions of online votes. A delayed count that drew calls of foul play. I'm just reading to make sure I get it right. For its lack.
Even reading, you're getting things wrong.
Transparency. Seriously?
Yes, seriously. Yeah, they don't have paper backups, for example, like we do. Like we had recounts in all these elections. They actually have the ballots. They don't even bother with that in Russia. He's jailing his opponents. It's not even close. But please tell us how the United States of America is no better than Putin's Russia.
Let me read that again, just so we're all clear what the U.S. is upset about. I'm going to move this over a little bit.
You're not. I mean, obviously, because your dad's buddy's still technically in charge.
Lean, but major gains by opposition groups, this is all in Russia, were erased Monday after the Electoral Commission.
Yeah, opposition groups. The party in power that had absolute control over the elections were able to manipulate them. And no matter, what the opposition did, they were obviously, there were dirty tricks put in by Putin, but he was in control of the entire election. It's as if, I don't know, whoever was president last year had their thumb on the scale in the United States election and won because they were able to eliminate votes for another person by, I don't know, maybe arranging for red states to puff the vote for them digitally.
Added millions of online votes, a delayed count that drew calls of foul play for its lack of transparency. It's interesting. I guess it's fine if those things happen in the United States. There's no lack of
They didn't happen in the United States. Thanks very much, honorific.
Transparency. If similar types of things happen to the U.S., I don't want to say that it exactly happened that way.
It didn't at all, actually.
But read it again and tell me, where have you heard something rather similar?
Oh, obviously, your dad is claiming that our country is no better than Russia and that our election systems are no better than the Russian systems, even though in this analogy, he would be the Putin in this situation.
Apparently, the Babylon Bee and South Park have come together to become not a cartoon and a parody site, but reality in the world in which we live. You literally can't make this stuff up anymore.
You don't have to make it up. This happens every time they have an election in Russia. This is what Putin does. Putin rigs the election every time. This isn't even related to us. What, do you want to go back to Saddam Hussein's elections and do those as well?
There's something eerily familiar about this.
Yeah, except your dad's a loser. It's very similar, except your dad couldn't manage to. I mean, he tried to cheat the election. He tried to get Republican governors and secretaries of state to puff his vote everywhere and apparently fill them with fraud, and Mike Lindell's found it everywhere. But they flipped a bunch of votes from Biden to Trump, and still it wasn't enough. Just too many people voted. Oops.
We've obviously had the safest election ever, but when similar things happen in other areas, the lack of transparency...
Other areas? You mean other countries? You mean kleptocracies run by criminal oligarchs? A guy who makes, on paper, $146,000 a year, but is worth $200 billion?
Is called and condemned. Remember, your memes will get fact-checked, but ballots will not, folks, right? Essentially. I gotta really...
We are fact-checking their ballots. We don't believe what Russia is putting forward. We do recounts if they're necessary in our country, and we have. And your dad lost again and again and again.
We get all of these things, because then they'll say, you're going to get thrown off. It's almost as though we live in Russia, right?
No, not at all, actually. In this case, let's say we flip this side, that in this analogy you're putting forward, that Biden is Putin and he arranged for this chicanery. If you were on social media making this video, you'd be scooped up and put in jail like Alexei Navalny. But again, Alexei Navalny's a freedom fighter and you're third generation rich kid.
Story, different channel. So I think we've all seen this before. It feels like perhaps they've learned from others. Or maybe others have learned from the Russians. I don't know.
That is the truest thing you've said the whole time. You don't know. So far, we're almost, we're 2/3 of the way through this. Nothing has been said. I mean, there's a little bit of like, obviously, it's like watching someone make a sock puppet out of cocaine.
Accused, but when major U.S. headlines and major
headlines, that's the, they're very dangerous. I don't know if you've ever been around a headline, but it's, they have no back, no legs, no nothing. It's just a giant lion's head, and they're biters. I'm just saying.
News networks are calling that out and highlighting that. Seems like those people had no issue with something that seems to me, at least, eerily familiar. So I thought you'd want to see that.
It's not eerily familiar, except for the fact that your dad and this guy have a lot in common. Except this guy successfully rigged his election, and your dad's a massive failure.
Understand exactly where we are as a democracy.
Oh, he's air quoting that we're a democracy. All right. Well, hey, your dad was running the place for 4 years, and suddenly we're not a democracy anymore. Coincidence? I think not.
And where we are in terms of hypocrisy, which is at an all-time low and an all-time high level of absolute ridiculous insanity. And guess what?
All right. Well, if you're just going to rearrange words at an all-time, I'm glad we're at an all-time low of hypocrisy.
You're seeing it in results, right? The most popular president.
You're seeing it in results.
Ever. Seems to be greeted across the country, in stadiums across the country, with FU chants. It's actually the biggest sporting trend, perhaps, in the world at the moment. But he's the most popular ever, and don't you forget it, or you will be canceled, you will be ostracized, and you will be put, probably, in the gulags.
In the gulags, right. I guess this is live from the gulags. By the way, I noticed you've turned your phone upright so that we don't see the work you've continued not to do on this shelf right here. That's it. That's the whole thing. Because we recognize that Russia's a kleptocracy and a criminal enterprise posing as a country. That's like, oh, they'll point it out in Russia, but not here. Perhaps, and I know your dad doesn't believe this, and I know you don't believe this, but perhaps America is an actual country and a good country, even with its failures, even with its shortcomings, is a better country than Russia, especially when it comes to democratically electing our leaders. But to believe that, you'd have to believe that Trump could be installed by military force or a bunch of assholes storming up the stairs and beating cops nearly to death. So, I don't know, maybe I could. The upside of this story is that we all know that has it been 10 days since he's posted a video? I think something like this is the 21st. Well, this sure is interesting. That was the name of it. Plot twist: Dems call out alleged voter fraud in Russia. Dems do it. Unbelievable. This was a news story that he was talking about. Everybody's calling it out. It's not alleged voter fraud. It's actual voter fraud. I think the shocking part of the story is that this asshole thinks it's alleged voter fraud in Russia. I think we found even Putin doesn't believe he was legitimately elected, but apparently Don Jr. does. But we're the America Last crowd. Right. Okay. Well, thanks, guys. I've got to ditch out because I've got to go pack and we got to catch a plane. And I will see you guys tomorrow at the regular time, which will be slightly earlier where I am, but slightly later than our normal time because it's 4 o'clock Pacific time. And I will be in DC. Hopefully we'll be able to get into the hotel and all hooked up and stuff before that happens. It's supposed to rain tomorrow in DC, so fingers crossed I'll actually be able to get in there and get hooked up. Wish me luck on the quality of getting the message out, getting the show out, and we'll see. All right, and I will try to capture some video and post it in my Insta stories and on Twitter and that kind of thing about where we go and Summer and I being in DC for my birthday, which is Saturday, and I'll be doing the regular Saturday radio show on Saturday as well from DC. I know Trump's doing that rally Saturday night. That's my birthday, my actual birthday. So Summer and I are going out to dinner, and she's got a surprise for me. I don't know what it is. That night, we're going someplace. So I will not be covering it that night, but I probably will cover it on Monday when we get back. So fingers crossed. We'll see you later. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. Thanks so much for tuning in. It was nice to see you guys twice in one day. I'll see you guys tomorrow from DC. Very exciting. Here we go. Bye.